How's that? Can you hear me okay? Yeah, right. Good. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Sangha. Here we are on Wednesday, hump day. Although for us in Sesshin, it's really actually a good day. Usually the second or third day, we start to kind of ease into this kind of deeper focus and concentration, right? I feel still a little bit nervous. But I'm way better than I was on Sunday night. Sunday night, I mean, my head, I don't know where all of you were, but my head was totally swimming in a sea of so many details and thoughts and everything. It took me at least till Monday night, and still, I'm so grateful for this practice because it's kind of, keeping me grounded right now, because it's been kind of intense for me in the hula world, because next weekend is the end of 5 months of intensive practice for 8 of my hula students. Weekly meetings. It was 2 hours every Sunday, and then about a couple months ago, I said, okay, we got to go to 3 hours a month. 2 hours now, it's now 3 hours. Plus, Wednesday night is our usual 2-hour practice, and I said, you need to come to as many of those also. And so they have been, for the most part. They can miss 3 classes, Sunday classes, that's it for the training. So they have to know 23 chants and dances, researched everything, translated, right? Be able to dance it as well and chant it. So it's getting very intense now as we go into the last 10 days before the traditional cultural practice, Hawaiian practice we're doing. It's like a rite of passage, and the outcome is still not known, right? Of who's passing and who's not after all of that. So I told them it's really important, and this is a hard thing, to let go of outcome, right? To just do it because you love it. You have to at this point, or else you're gonna be miserable, basically. You gotta let go. And in the hula world, in Zen, this is our practice, right? We're letting go every moment as we sit on the cushion. We're letting go of thoughts because they come up and they grab hold and you're miserable, basically. And so it's a very spiritual practice. It has to be at this point for them and for me, right? It's so, this is life. It's, Bernie Glassman said, use life as the practice field. And Dogen also says that. Let's see here. Dogen urges us to have our practice be total, whole, undivided, sincere, authentic from moment to moment. I think it's hard to do if we're not practicing like we are right now in Sesshin. I think that's very difficult to do because we're so distracted by so many things. It's hard to be authentic in the moment. You try. I mean, you try, but you're supposed to do, not try. Somebody said that. Thank you, Geiger. So, Dogen also urges us, just like Bernie's a big Dogen scholar, practitioner. Dogen says, to have all of life be practice. And Nancy Mujo Baker, which we've been studying and opening to oneness, she says, and surprisingly to some, that includes language, thinking, reason, and action. Language, thinking, reason, and action. All of that is the practice field. We are urged to make every moment, every activity complete and lacking nothing. And we are urged never to forget that the darkness of ignorance is inseparable from nirvana. The darkness of ignorance is inseparable from nirvana. So anybody who thinks that nirvana is just all peace and equanimity, you can just forget that. Because it includes everything. So the question is, can we be okay with that? How do we practice with that? Because we have this idea, right? Nirvana is when everything's going to be just fine. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to fear anything. Nirvana is where I'm just blissed out. Well, I think that's a big delusion right there. Dogen also asks us to inquire constantly into the nature of reality, to clarify, study, investigate, and plumb its full extent. There's a lot of work here. I thought I was just supposed to be sitting and doing nothing. Mujo, she's saying that these are not just intellectual exercises. That's interesting. What? We're clarifying, studying, investigating, plumbing its full extent. They're not intellectual exercises? What the hell are they? So she says, rather, they require a willingness to be open to and curious about every aspect of our experience, deluded or not. Okay, now we're getting somewhere, right? Open, willing to open, and be curious about every aspect of our experience, deluded or not, right? We don't want to put a good or bad here that's getting into duality, right? We're trying to. So this means not thinking about it, whatever it is, but sinking deeper into it in a state of not knowing and total welcoming. Sinking deeper into it in a state of not knowing and total welcoming. What? How do I welcome this confused, not knowing state of mind, not knowing what the outcome is going to be, not having control over everything in my environment? How do I welcome that? That's the first pure precept. Not creating evil or not knowing, right? Being open to everything, to life. Life is the practice field. And we all have preferences, don't we? All right, so knowing that, we see our preference in a situation. Can we let it go? Can we let it go? And when we do that, if we can do that, that's the deep practice right there. Mujo is saying, this allows insight and genuine understanding to occur, right? Because if we know, and if we're stuck, is insight gonna come in here? We're kind of like closed off here, claustrophobic, stuck. Is understanding gonna really come in, seep in somehow? I think it might be tough. So that's a deep practice, that first practice of not knowing. And Bernie and his wife Teisho, they were on vacation in Maui, and they came up with this, after having studied deeply the precepts. And these three are 3 of 16 precepts that we study here at the center, Zen students study. That not knowing equated to that first pure precept of not creating evil. So She also says the result is a knowing by being. A knowing by being, not thinking, by being. And of course, in Zen, we have this saying, right? It is a finger pointing to the moon. But Dogen would remind us that the finger is the moon. And that's why she uses the word non instead of not. You know, there's 10 grave precepts. You know, it's not killing is what we usually say, but she says non-killing, non-killing. At the end of the book, Mujo included a talk by Bernie Glassman in the appendix that's really wonderful about the 3 pure precepts and Bodhidharma. So Bernie says when he was first taught the meaning of the word kai, like jukai, the precepts, to take the precepts, Maizumi Roshi used the translation of aspects of life for kai. So that's interesting, to receive aspects of life or studying aspects of life. And one of our Zen questions, or koan actually, is why did Bodhidharma come to the East? Or it's a question, why did Bodhidharma come to the East, right? He was in India and he went to China. So it's actually a metaphor question for what is Zen? What is Zen? And we've always said, you know, Zen is kai, is life. Zen is life. We say that in hula as well. Hula is life. Life is the practice field. So Zen is life. And so the question is, so what is this Zen? What is this Zen? What is life we are talking about? If Zen is kai, if it's life itself, then what's the point of talking about bringing it from one country to another? So the questions in this koan that come up are, what are you transmitting? What is the Dharma torch that can't, shouldn't be extinguished? And Bernie says, of course, Bodhidharma is not some figure that lived many, many years ago. Bodhidharma is us, all of us. I'm Bodhidharma. And it's our teachers that came from Japan, Maizumi Roshi. It's Bodhidharma. They are carrying the torch that we've planted here in Oak Park, that you all are carrying, or you're starting to carry, or learning how to carry the torch. So, yeah, what is this torch? What is this torch? And what is it that we want to receive from this? And what is it that we don't want to receive? So Huineng, our sixth Chinese ancestor, he defines Zazen as the state of mind in which there is no separation between subject and object. No space between I and thou, you and me, up and down, right or wrong. No space between them. So this ceasing from evil, the first pure precept, ceasing from evil, is the state of at-one-ment, of being one, of being Buddha, of being the three treasures, of being, of returning to the one, which is a very difficult place to be. And this is the place where we don't know what's right, what's wrong, not knowing. The place of just being, Kai itself, life itself, just being. And how many of us can say that we're really open, right, to all the ways of our lives? And how many of us can say that we don't have the answer, the right way? Or how many of us can say that every way that's being presented is the right way? I like to be right myself. So that's a preference for sure, right? So it's looking at that and then being wrong, looking at that preference. Oof, I don't like doing that. Why is that? That's interesting, right? So it's just interesting. You just have to explore, be open to. Everything in life. Yeah. So, Bernie, always saw Zazen as a bearing witness, right? Because you're just sitting there and that's all you're doing is bearing witness, trying not, to attach too much to your thoughts and coming back to body, but you're bearing witness to everything that's going on and just opening to that. and bearing witness, especially to things we want to push away. Yeah, that's a good one to work on. You know, why? Why do we want to push it away? That's interesting. What is it really? Usually it's some kind of fear, right? Some kind of fear, because we're protecting this that we think is really important. So bearing witness is the second pure precept, doing good. You're just bearing witness without judgment. Letting go of judgment as it arises, that's the practice. Noticing you have lots of judgment, then not judging yourself for having judgments. You know, it just kind of goes on and on. Bernie said, as human beings, each one of us is denying something. Each one of us is aware of certain aspects of life that we do not want to deal with, usually because we are afraid of them. So what would it be like to just open to that fear? Just give it some space, right? This is, bearing witness is giving space and breathing. Breath. So he says, Zazen in its true state allows us to bear witness to all life. And for me, that's the second pure precept, doing good. To bear witness to all life, including your own. Dogen Zenji says, doing good, this is the Dharma of Samyak Sambodhi. This is the way of all beings. And then the third pure precept, Bernie says, the flowering of Zazen, the flowering of bearing witness is doing good for others. Dogen Zenji says, this is to transcend the profane and to be beyond the holy. This is to liberate oneself and others. Things that you are in denial about will teach you. They will teach you if you can listen, bear witness, and then become at one with them. This is Zazen. This is the three pure precepts. So, tonight I am going to miss Zazen because I have to do an emergency class for my students, hula students, and I have to teach them one more dance that they have to know by next weekend. And this is a chant, because I had another one, but that one was not in our hula lineage. It was from another lineage. And because this is our rite of passage for our lineage, I'm at least the 8th generation in my hula lineage, at least. And there's more that we don't know of, right? So I'm teaching them a new one. We're getting rid of one that they're really good at. Getting rid of that one, and we're putting in a new one about Alakai, which is the name of a so-called swamp on the island of Kauai. It's not really a swamp, it's a wet forest bog at the 4,000 feet elevation on Mount Waialeale, noted as one of the most wettest place on the earth. A lot of rain there. And this boggy area have areas where, there's mud. You step into it, it can go up to your leg and maybe up to your chest, bog. And then they have all these fabulous, it's very biodiverse up there. It is an International Union for Conservation of Nature designated Area 5 area. It's got 21 of 42 endangered species in this bog area and beautiful plants. Anyway, we are learning a chant and dance for this place. So when I heard that yesterday, I've been talking to two of my Kumu sisters on the island of Hawaii, and they said, yeah, better take that one out. It's like, okay, I'm gonna be open to, challenges, and I could definitely crumble with fear, like what? I don't know how my students are doing. We'll find out tonight. I did tell them they are learning this new one. And I reminded them that my Kumu told us, which I neglected to tell them at the beginning of the training, this is gonna be the worst year of your life and the best year of your life. Life, the practice field. How do we approach challenges, right? Are we going to go, well, we might initially. And then we breathe. This wonderful practice that we have, I can attest, it has helped me tremendously. I was sick for 2 weeks with COVID. I hardly sat at all in that time, and I could notice what a reactive person I am. Very reactive, angry, frustrated, impatient. Wow, they're lucky I have this practice. I would be totally difficult to deal with. So, so I testimony, this practice works. It really works. When you've got a lot of things going on, they said, this is what they say, when you have a lot going on, you have to sit more. I am so grateful for Monday where we sat the whole day. I needed that whole day to settle down. And in our regular lives, can you do that? So hard, right? So hard to do that when you've got tons going on. I was so grateful. And I kind of scheduled it that the rite of passage, Uniki, the week after this, knowing that things could go a little haywire, right? So, that is my talk today, and I am open for questions or discussion that you would like to do.
Those online, feel free to unmute yourself.
Oh, that was a terrific Teisho, and it's always nice and kind of freeing to hear Roshi say, right? it's just good to have that kind of freedom, that I can be in the Sangha or be around, my Roshis, and I can face losing it, or, whatever I have to go through. You read something in there, and I can't remember the words, but it was the contrast and the similarity. There was a phrase, something about darkness and something about something lovely, something, well, I shouldn't term it, but it was somewhere in there, I think, when you were talking. If you know what I'm referring to, if you could just kind of read that again.
Okay, let's see.
I can't remember it. It was in a quote from somebody, but the idea is that, thinking about where did I learn what isn't good? And I think you said something about what I don't want to do is a nice thing to focus on, because I think with the Buddha nature, with sitting, those parts of me are going to come out, compassion and wisdom, loving kindness. And I like the perspective of paying attention to what I don't want, what energy I don't want encompassing me, what I don't want to be controlled by. It's a nice idea. I think Roshi yesterday touched on, take in what's coming in your emotions and own it and keep it and take care of it and learn about it before it's so quick to push it away. But I think embracing some new ideas about the negative sides of me or the negative feelings, I think it's a nice invitation to not be so hard on who I am. But yeah, if it comes back up or around, it was a quote, or maybe later get it, but thanks.
Right, so you're giving space to that, right? Instead of constricting, you're trying to open with those feelings of anything we're denying about ourselves, because it will come up if you're lucky. If you're lucky, it'll come up, and then you can work with it, right? You can really work if it's not so forced down, right? That's another thing that's interesting to kind of notice, right? But little bits will come up and you'll have insights, if you do this practice, right? Roshi talked about that inner radiance, right? It's there, just have to see it. And if you give space to those, constricted feelings, there's a better chance of it seeping up. Yeah. Investigate, clarify.
I recently read something about a retranslation of the three poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance. That sort of, let's see if I can remember, raga, dvesha, and moha, where instead of greed, it is you want what's positive and what's pleasant, and you grasp on what's pleasant. The dvesha is to push away that which is unpleasant. And then the moha, which is what I've been working with a lot recently, are the stories we tell ourselves, instead of ignorance, the stories we tell ourselves to justify why we grasp for the pleasant and push away the unpleasant. And for me, it was reframing that helped me reconfigure how I look at it, that I thought was helpful. And one of my morning mantra includes a few things, the three treasures, but also a quote from Nietzsche, which is amor fati. And he wrote about, in regards to the Stoics, which is amor, love, fati, your fate. Love, whatever happens, love it. Treat it like an e-ticket ride at Disney World. The biggest, most for those of you who are too young, you used to have different rides, and the best and biggest and scariest rides were the e-ticket rides. And I try to think of life as an e-ticket ride. And to approach it like I'm at Disney. Hey, let's see what happens. And it's just a different way of looking at it. But your Teisho today really brought that up in me again.
I have something from the cyberspace here. I don't need a microphone. I have one on my computer. I really appreciated in the connecting the three tenets with and especially the not knowing and connecting it with not creating evil. There's so much that is done to people and to our earth by thinking that we have the answers, simple answers to complex problems. And being able, I forgot that connection. I'm sure I've heard it before, but it reminded me again that me thinking I know and have all the answers, or just being aware of simple answers out there, and that those simple answers could be doing harm and can be sources of evil that's important to me. That's deep. So thank you so much.
That's why Bernie's last teaching was, it's just your opinion, man.
Mhm.
Basically, it's just
Mhm.
your opinion, man.
Mhm.
It's not the truth with a capital T.
Hi, can you hear me?
Ah,
Yes. Thank you for your talk, Roshi. And I think your message of life being a practice field is a very powerful message. And for me, yeah, I had a stark reminder of that today. Today was going to be my last day of Sesshin, so I was really looking forward to it. And I woke up, and when I got out of bed, like my back was hurting really bad, just out of the blue. I had a hard time walking. And I think the practice, normally I would have been panicking or, like, oh, geez, I really wanted to have this last day be a really good one, put my all into it. But I think with the practice, I was able to just kind of be okay with it. Like, all right, this is the lesson life is giving me right here. And um, so I feel life has a way of giving you lessons. And if you're open to it, you can work with that. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that.
okay, well, I hope your back is feeling better on. Good. No, not yet. Okay, I hope, yeah. Oh, it's nothing serious.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you for that, Roshi. I really just like being reminded by you because you do it in such a lovely way of just the precepts. And I feel like that really is something I could be reminded of almost daily. I need that. Um, so thank you for bringing that again. So I'm also looking forward to the day of reflection that we'll be having during retreat or during Ongo then, where we'll have that opportunity to do this with, outside of retreat and in our own lives. And I feel like I'm also very grateful for this practice that we're able to sit and experience more of what that's like to how you described as being, so that when we do step out into our busy lives and all of that, like we don't necessarily have to, we can take that breath and be first, right? So thank you for that.
I was going to start this talk with a sutra, but I didn't know if I should read it. Because it's Smokey the Bear Sutra. Have you heard that one? Do you want to hear it? Okay, well, no. This is written by Gary Snyder, right, who's a poet, environmental activist, professor. He's also a Zen person. He translated from Japanese and Chinese into English books. I think he worked with Ruth Fuller Sasaki on Zen dust. So anyway, this is what he wrote, the Smokey the Bear Sutra. I thought we might end on this, so we have some time. It's 2 pages. Once in the Jurassic, about 150 million years ago, the great Sun Buddha in this corner of the infinite void gave a great discourse to all the assembled elements and energies, to the standing beings, the walking beings, the flying beings, and the sitting beings, even grasses, to the number of 13 billion, each one born from a seed, were assembled there, a discourse concerning enlightenment on the planet Earth. In some future time, there will be a continent called America. It will have great centers of power called such as Pyramid Lake, Walden Pond, Mount Rainier, Big Sur, Everglades, Alakai, and so forth, and powerful nerves and channels such as Columbia River, Mississippi River, and Grand Canyon. The human race in that era will get into troubles all over its head and practically wreck everything in spite of its own strong, intelligent Buddha nature. The twisting strata of the great mountains and the pulsings of great volcanoes are my love burning deep in the earth. My obstinate compassion is schist and basalt and granite, to beam mountains, to bring down the rain. In that future American era, I shall enter a new form to cure the world of loveless knowledge that seeks with blind hunger and mindless rage, eating food that will not fill it. That's the preface. And he showed himself in his true form of Smokey the Bear. A handsome, smoky-colored brown bear standing on his hind legs, showing that he is aroused and watchful. Bearing in his right paw the shovel that digs to the truth beneath appearances, cuts the roots of useless attachments, and flings damp sand on the fires of greed and war. His left paw in the mudra of comradely display, indicating that all creatures have the full right to live to their limits, and that deer, rabbits, chipmunks, snakes, dandelions, and lizards all grow in the realm of the Dharma. Wearing the blue work overalls symbolic of slaves and laborers, the countless men oppressed by a civilization that claims to save but only destroys. Wearing the broad-brimmed hat of the West, symbolic of the forces that guard the wilderness, which is the natural state of the Dharma and the true path of man on earth. All true paths lead through mountains. With a halo of smoke and flame behind, the forest fires of the Mali Yoga fires caused by the stupidity of those who think things can be gained and lost, whereas in truth, all is contained vast and free in the blue sky and green earth of one mind. Round-bellied to show his kind nature and that the great earth has food enough for everyone who loves her and trusts her. Trampling underfoot wasteful freeways and needless suburbs, smashing the worms of capitalism and totalitarianism, indicating the task, his followers becoming free of cars, houses, canned food, universities, and shoes, master the three mysteries of their own body, speech, and mind, and fearlessly chop down the rotten trees and prune out the sick limbs of this country, America, and then burn the leftover trash. Wrathful but calm, austere but comic, Smokey the Bear will illuminate those who would help him. But for those who would hinder or slander him, he will put them out. Thus his great mantra, Nama Samanta Vajranam Chanda Maharoshana Spataya Hum Traka Ham. I dedicate myself to the universal diamond, be this raging fury destroyed. And he will protect those who love woods and rivers, gods and animals, hobos and madmen, prisoners and sick people, musicians, playful women, and hopeful children. And if anyone is threatened by advertising, air pollution, or the police, they should chant Smokey the Bear's war spell. Drown their butts, crush their butts, drown their butts, crush their butts. And Smokey the Bear will surely appear to put the enemy out with his Vajra shovel. Now those who recite this sutra and then try to put it in practice will accumulate merit as countless as the sands of Arizona and Nevada, will help save the planet Earth from total oil slick, will enter the age of harmony of man and nature, will win the tender love and caresses of men, women, and beasts, will always have ripe blackberries to eat and a sunny spot under a pine to sit at, and in the end will win highest perfect enlightenment. Thus have we heard. Well, that was quite dualistic, but anyway. Yeah, well, anyway. Yes, we include both, right? We include both.
Prepare for lunch.
Oh, okay, let's see here. Okay, I just remember here.
I know what I'm talking about. It's like something that's dark, look at something from one perspective and from the other side. Did it come through or?
Yeah, you can take a look. Yeah, yeah, yeah.